Right, in this demo, I'm going to go over how to test Azure AD B2C protocols using this GitHub repository that I've created for testing with the Insomnia application. The URL is github.com/jasonfritz/insomnia, where you'll find the steps to set up Insomnia, as well as create a B2C tenant and user flows and app registrations. So in this demo, I'm going to assume that you've already completed steps 1, 2, and 3. So you already have a B2C tenant with a user flow, and you've created a number of app registrations. And so you're at the point where you're ready to set up Insomnia, which is this step 4. So in step 4, you're going to download the Insomnia Windows client, install it locally, and then you're going to follow these instructions to set up Insomnia with this demo collection that I've created for B2C. So as part of that, you're going to need this URL, which contains the collection that I've created for demoing the protocols. So I'm going to copy that to Notepad. I'm going to open up Insomnia. You can sign in with your own account, or there's also an option for a local Scratchpad environment. But once you're inside of Insomnia, you can create yourself a new project if one doesn't already exist. I'm going to do that here. And then once you're in your project, just choose import. Choose import from a URL, and then paste the URL that you got from the GitHub instructions. Once you scan that, you should see that it comes with a number of example requests. I'm going to choose import. And then once you've done that, you should find this collection has been imported. And if you go into that collection, you'll find a number of different example requests for testing out the different OAuth flows with your B2C tenant. So I'm going to go over how to use the authorization code flow first. So collections are basically just example requests that you can send from the client. Each collection will have a folder, and then if you click that folder, there'll be like an environment tab where you can set up your environment variables to use your specific B2C tenant and app registration. So the first step is going to be going to your environment tab for each of these examples and filling out this information with your specific B2C tenant information. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to copy it over from my notepad. So that's my tenant name. This is the policy that I created, but you might have a different name. This is actually the client ID that I already used for testing, but you'll want to use your Insomnia app registration client ID that you created in one of the previous steps from the GitHub instructions. And then I'm going to copy over my client secret, which is not something you want to share usually, but I'm going to delete this right after this demo. The redirect URI, you'll want to keep the same. That's part of the instructions to use that as a redirect URI. And then the scope, you'll want to change to your tenant, as well as the API app registration that you created in the previous steps as well. So once you've got all the environment variables configured and customized to your environment, you can go back to the request collections and start testing. So the first step in the authorization code flow is to send the authorization request to the user. If you've filled out all the environment variables, what you should find is that this request is already customized to your tenant using the variables that you specified. So you can see here that these variables are already customized using my variable values. So the first step in the authorization code flow is to send a request to the resource owner or the end user to provide authorization to your client app. And to do this within Insomnia, this is an interactive request that you need to send to the user. So I'm going to copy the URL preview here. And then I'm going to go to my web browser, which is how the user would be requested to interactively sign in. And I'm going to go to that URL, and it's taking me to my B2C tenant to sign in. I'm going to choose a user that I just created. And if everything works, it should redirect you to this demo site, which lets you see the authorization code that was returned by B2C. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard and then proceed with the next step of the authorization code flow, which is the client app, which is Insomnia in this scenario. So I'm going to go to the second step, and underneath the body of the request that you're going to send, you should find that there's already these variables which have been populated from the environment, which you don't want to change. And then the authorization code you'll want to paste here from your clipboard. And then on this step, this is the client app is exchanging the authorization code for the token that was requested in your scope. And so in this one, you can do this all within Insomnia by just choosing send. And again, if everything worked, you'll find that B2C returned the requested access token. So if you look at our scope here, I requested the OpenID scope, which returns the ID token, offline access, which will return a refresh token, and then the scope of my web API, which I registered, which will be returned as an access token. So here you can see all three of those things: the access token, the ID token, and then the refresh token. So if you wanted to inspect any of these, you could just copy this value and go to a website like jwt.ms. This is just an encoded JOT token. So if you paste that value, you can decode it and see the different claims. You can see the audience is my client app, see the scope of the access token is my web API, and then you can see some information, some claims about the resource owner, which consented to the access token. And then same thing with an ID token, because we requested the OpenID scope. You can take that to JWT and decode that, and you can see the different claims that are provided in a ID token. And finally, to go through the entire authorization code flow, if you want to exchange a refresh token for a new access token, you'll go down to the refresh token section here, copy this value, and then go to step 3, which is how your client app can exchange a refresh token for a new access token. So again, in the body of this example request, you'll find a parameter that you need to populate. So here under the parameters, it'll say for the refresh token parameter, you want to copy the result from step 2. So I'm going to paste that there. And then again, if you hit send, this is going to the token endpoint. And if I hit send, you'll find the response here, where you'll find a new access token with a extended lifetime, and you also find a new refresh token. So you can see how the refresh token flow works to get a new access token. Going back to our presentation on the authorization code flow, this is what we just demoed. First, Insomnia, the application or client app in this scenario, sent the user to the authorization endpoint. The user signed in. So B2C, the authorization endpoint, returned an authorization code to the app. The app then exchanged that authorization code for a access token by sending it to the token endpoint. And then it returned the access token and refresh token to the app. What we didn't demo is using the actual access token to access the web API, because I don't have an actual API. You could do that as well. All right, and that's it. Thank you.